Deep in an asteroid field that appeared empty to any scanning equipment, a massive space station hung in the darkness. From the outside, it looked like just another large rock floating in space. But inside, hundreds of people worked at advanced computer systems and monitoring equipment. Commander Do-hyun sat in the main control room, studying reports that came from spy drones scattered across the galaxy. He was a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes that missed nothing. For the past 15 years, he had been responsible for watching the Galactic Council and making sure they never discovered Earth's location. "Sir, we just received the recording from the Council meeting on Vextar Prime," said Lieutenant Ye-jin from her station nearby. She was young but very skilled with computers and communication systems. "They found some of our old archives." Do-hyun frowned and activated his main display screen. The recorded conversation from the council chamber played out in front of him. He listened carefully as Ambassador Tae-min described the human artifacts and Jin-ho showed the holographic images. "How much did they find?" Do-hyun asked. "Not much, sir. Just basic information about our physical appearance and some general descriptions of human behavior. Nothing about our current location or technology level." Do-hyun nodded, but still looked concerned. Humanity had been hiding from the galaxy for over 3,000 years, ever since the disaster that nearly destroyed both Earth and several alien worlds. Back then, humans had tried to make peaceful contact with other species. But fear and misunderstandings had led to a terrible war that lasted for decades. When the war finally ended, Earth's leaders had made a difficult decision. They would disappear from galactic history and watch from the shadows. It was better to let other species think humans were extinct than to risk another catastrophic conflict. "What did the council decide?" Do-hyun asked. "They dismissed it as mythology," Ye-jin replied. "Council leader So-ra ordered them to stop investigating." "Good. That gives us more time." Do-hyun turned to another workstation where Dr. Minna was studying biological data about the council species. Dr. Minna was an expert in alien biology and psychology. She had spent her entire career learning about the 12 species that made up the Galactic Council. Her research helped Earth's leaders understand how to stay hidden and what threats might emerge in the future. "Doctor, what's your current assessment of Council military capabilities?" Do-hyun asked. Minna looked up from her screens. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes and graying hair. "Not good, Commander. They've had peace for so long that most of their military technology is outdated. Their ship designs prioritize comfort and efficiency over combat effectiveness." She activated a holographic display showing various alien warships. "Look at this Kethran battlecruiser. It's huge and impressive, but it has obvious weak points in the hull design, and their weapons are powerful but slow to target fast-moving objects." "What about their tactics?" Do-hyun wanted to know. "Even worse," Minna said sadly. "They fight like they're conducting a formal ceremony instead of a battle. Everything is predictable and follows established patterns. Any enemy that studies them for a few battles could easily counter their strategies." Do-hyun felt a chill of worry. Earth's spy networks had been detecting troubling signs recently. Strange energy readings from beyond the galaxy's edge, reports of ships disappearing in deep space, and disturbing radio signals that no one could decode. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Dae-ho from across the room, "Captain Hyun-woo's reconnaissance team is requesting permission to return to base. They've completed their surveillance mission of the Council's latest military exercises." "Granted. Have them report to Briefing Room 3 as soon as they dock." 2 hours later, Captain Hyun-woo and his team sat around a conference table, looking tired but alert. Hyun-woo was one of Earth's best stealth ship commanders, able to get close to alien fleets without being detected. His team included technical, Specialist Ye-jin, and several other highly trained observers. "The exercises were even worse than we expected," Hyun-woo reported. "The Council fleets moved in perfect formations that looked beautiful, but were completely impractical for real combat. Their commanders spent more time talking to each other than actually commanding their ships." "Did they detect your presence?" Do-hyun asked. "No, sir. Our stealth systems worked perfectly, but we did encounter something unexpected." Hyun-woo's expression became grim. "We detected unknown ships in the outer void region. They weren't Council vessels." Do-hyun leaned forward. Explain. Yejin activated a small holographic projector. Images of strange, organic-looking spacecraft appeared above the table. The ships seemed to be alive, with surfaces that moved and shifted like skin. We were monitoring the Council exercises when our long-range sensors detected these vessels, she explained. They were completely different from any known technology. The ships seemed to be biological rather than mechanical. How many? Do-hyun asked. Hundreds, Hyunwoo said quietly. Maybe thousands. They were organized in what looked like a swarm formation, moving together like a school of fish or a flock of birds. The room fell silent as everyone stared at the images. This was exactly the kind of threat that Earth's leaders had been worried about. We tried to get closer for better scans, Hyunwoo continued, but something went wrong. They detected us, somehow, even though our stealth systems were working perfectly. We had to run. Did they pursue you? Do-hyun wanted to know. For a while, but they seemed more interested in something else. We watched from long range as they engaged a Council patrol fleet that was investigating the same region. Yejin changed the holographic display to show what happened next. The alien swarm surrounded the Council ships like predators attacking prey. The Council vessels fought back with their standard weapons, but their attacks seemed to have no effect. The swarm ships adapted to every weapon the Council used, Hyunwoo reported. Energy beams, missiles, plasma cannons, nothing worked for more than a few minutes. The biological ships would change their outer surfaces to absorb or deflect each new attack. What happened to the Council fleet? Dr. Minna asked, though her expression suggested she already knew the answer. Completely destroyed. But not in the way you'd expect. The swarm didn't just blow up the ships, they seemed to absorb them, breaking them down into raw materials. Some of the Council vessels were actually converted into more swarm ships. Do-hyun stood up and walked to the room's large window that looked out into space. Somewhere out there, a new threat was moving toward the galaxy. The peaceful species of the Council had no idea what was coming, and their outdated military would be useless against an enemy that could adapt to any weapon. For 3,000 years, humanity had watched from the shadows and stayed out of galactic affairs. They had let other species believe that humans were just myths and legends. It had been a good strategy that kept Earth safe and prevented another devastating war. But now Do-hyun faced an impossible choice. Earth could continue hiding and let the galaxy burn, or they could reveal themselves to save species that didn't even know they existed. Sir, Yejin said quietly, there's one more thing. We intercepted some of the swarm's communications before we escaped. Our computers are still trying to translate the signals, but we did identify one word that kept repeating. What word? Do-hyun asked. Cleansing, she replied. Whatever these creatures are, they seem to think the galaxy needs to be cleaned. Do-hyun looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity's long period of hiding was about to end. The watchers in the dark might soon have to step into the light whether they wanted to or not. The great crystal halls of Vextar Prime had seen many meetings over the centuries, but today felt different. Ambassador Taimin of the Velthari people stood at the center of the massive chamber, his blue skin glowing softly under the artificial lights. Around him sat representatives from 12 different alien species, each one more strange than the last. The Galactic Council had kept peace in this part of space for over 3,000 years. Wars were rare now, and most conflicts got solved through talking instead of fighting. It was a good system and everyone was happy with how things worked, but Taimin had found something that worried him. Council members, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 3 months ago, our research teams discovered ruins on the dead world of Kepler 442b. What we found there changes everything we thought. We knew about galactic history. The other ambassadors shifted in their seats. Jinho, the four-armed Kethran archaeologist, activated a holographic display that filled the air above their heads. Ancient symbols and pictures appeared, glowing with soft blue light. These are human writings, Jinho said, pointing at the symbols with 2 of his arms while the other 2 worked control panels, or at least that's what the text called them. The word appears over and over in these archives. Council leader Sora leaned forward. Her people, the Nethka, were tall and thin with silver skin that looked like metal. Humans? I have never heard this word before. What kind of species were they? Taemin activated another section of the display. Images of strange two-legged creatures appeared. They looked similar to several council species, but had some odd differences. Their skin was soft and came in different colors. They had hair on their heads and small eyes compared to most galactic species. According to these records, Taemin continued, humans came from a world called Earth, but the things these texts claim about them are impossible. The archives say humans could live in almost any environment. They could breathe different types of air, survive in extreme heat and cold, and adapt to new situations faster than any known species. Several council members made sounds of disbelief. The Quellinari ambassador, a being that looked like a walking tree, rustled his leaves in what his people called laughter. Even more strange, Jinho added, the texts claim these humans had no natural enemies on their homeworld. Every other species we know evolved with predators that hunted them. But humans supposedly became the top hunters on their planet through intelligence and tool use alone. This sounds like mythology, Sora said firmly. Every species has creation myths and stories about impossible ancestors. My people have legends about the first builders who could shape stars with their thoughts. But we know these are just stories. Taemin nodded but looked troubled. That's what we thought too, Council Leader. But there's more. The archives describe human behavior in ways that don't match any known species. They say humans could be incredibly violent, capable of destroying entire worlds. But the same texts also say they could show incredible kindness even to their enemies. Impossible, declared Ambassador Vextor of the hive mind species. His insect-like features clicked as he spoke. No species can be both extremely aggressive and extremely peaceful. Evolution doesn't work that way. The holographic display changed again, showing star maps and what looked like battle formations. Jinho's compound eyes reflected the light as he studied the images. The most interesting part is how the records end, he said. The humans simply vanished from history about 3,000 years ago. Right around the time our council was formed, actually. There's no record of them dying out or leaving this part of space. They just stopped appearing in any archives. Council leader Sora stood up, her tall frame casting a shadow across the chamber. I think we've heard enough. These humans are clearly mythological. If such a species existed with the abilities described, we would have encountered them by now. They would have made contact with the Council centuries ago. But what if they chose not to? Taemin asked quietly. The chamber fell silent. The idea that an advanced species might choose to avoid contact was disturbing to the Council members. Their entire system of government was based on cooperation between different species. That's enough speculation, Sora said firmly. I'm declaring this matter closed. We will file these archives as historical curiosities, nothing more. If the Council spent time investigating every ancient myth and legend, we would never get any real work done. The other ambassadors murmured their agreement, though some looked uncertain. Taemin bowed respectfully and gathered his data files, but his expression remained worried. After the meeting ended and most of the ambassadors had left, Jinho approached Taemin in the corridor outside the chamber. You don't believe it's just mythology, do you? Jinho asked quietly. Taemin looked around to make sure they were alone. The detail in those archives is incredible. No myth or legend has that much specific information about technology, biology, and military tactics. Someone with real knowledge created those records. So where are they now? Jinho wondered. If humans were real, what happened to them? Before Taemin could answer, both aliens' communication devices buzzed with an incoming message. It was from the Outer Rim territories, where most of the Council's trading and mining operations took place. The message was from Captain Wu Jin of the Zephy people, who ran trading routes near the Galactic Edge. His report was brief but disturbing. Council Command, this is Trading Vessel Far Wanderer. I'm reporting unusual sensor readings near the Void Nebula in Sector 7. My instruments are detecting large metallic structures moving through dark space, but they don't match any known ship designs. When I tried to get closer for a better look, the objects vanished. I know this sounds crazy, but something big is out there and it's hiding from us. Taemin and Jinho looked at each other. The timing was too strange to be a coincidence. Should we report this to Council Leader Sora? Jinho asked. Taemin shook his head. She made it clear that she doesn't want to hear any more theories about mysterious species. Besides, Captain Wu Jin probably just saw some asteroids or space debris. His sensors could have malfunctioned. But deep down, Taemin wasn't so sure. Something told him that the universe was about to become much more complicated than the peaceful galaxy the Council had known for 3,000 years. Far away in the darkness between stars, sensors that no Council species could detect watched and recorded everything that had happened in the crystal halls of Vextar Prime. The Watchers had been listening for a very long time, and they had been waiting for the right moment to act. That moment was coming soon. The attack came without warning. Ambassador Taemin was reviewing trade reports in his office on Velthari Station when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. Through his window, he could see the peaceful blue glow of his home system's 3 suns, but something was wrong with the light. Dark shapes were moving across the stars, blocking out their brightness. "All stations, this is Command," a voice announced over the communication system. "We have multiple unidentified vessels entering the system. They are not responding to our signals. All defensive units prepare for possible hostile contact." Taemin rushed to the command center, where dozens of Velthari officers were working frantically at their control panels. The main display screen showed the tactical situation, and what Taemin saw made his skin go cold. Hundreds of organic-looking ships were pouring into the system from deep space. They moved like living creatures, flowing around obstacles and changing direction in ways that seemed impossible for mechanical vessels. The ships were different sizes, but all of them had the same disturbing appearance, like they were grown rather than built. "Sir, we're receiving reports from 3 other systems," reported Communications Officer Nalki. "The same type of ships are attacking colonies throughout the sector. Keth Prime, Nethka Central, and the Hivemind Collective worlds are all under assault." "Have we made contact with these attackers?" Taemin asked. "Do we know what they want?" "No response to any communication attempts, sir. They're just attacking everything in sight." On the display screen, Taemin watched as the first wave of alien ships engaged the system's defense fleet. The Velthari vessels opened fire with their standard energy weapons, bright blue beams that should have destroyed or damaged the attacking ships. Instead, something impossible happened. Where the energy beams hit the organic vessels, their surfaces rippled and changed. Within minutes, the same ships that had been damaged by the energy weapons were now completely unaffected by them. "They're adapting," whispered Science Officer Yelto from his station. "Somehow these ships are changing their outer hulls to resist our weapons." The defense fleet tried different weapons: missiles, plasma charges, particle beams. Each attack worked for a short time before the alien ships adapted to it. Soon the Velthari vessels were completely helpless. Taemin watched in horror as his people's ships were systematically destroyed. But the attackers didn't just blow them up. The organic vessels surrounded each disabled ship and began breaking it apart, absorbing the materials and technology. "Emergency evacuation," Taemin ordered. "Get all civilians to the escape pods and transport ships. Send a priority message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need immediate military assistance." But even as he gave the orders, Taemin knew it was probably too late for his world. On the distant world of Nethka Prime, Council Leader Sora stood in the Emergency Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the disaster unfolding across the galaxy. Her silver skin had lost its usual shine, and her tall frame seemed bent with worry. "Status report," she demanded from Military Commander Jinho, who had been recalled from his archaeological duties to help coordinate the defense. Jinho's forearms worked at multiple control panels at once. 7 systems have been completely overrun. 15 more are under attack. The enemy ships, and whatever they are, seem to be moving in coordinated groups toward the core worlds. What about our defense fleets? Destroyed or scattered, Jinho admitted reluctantly. Every time we engage these creatures, they adapt to our weapons within minutes. Our ships become useless. Sora studied the tactical displays with growing desperation. The unknown enemy was cutting through Council territory like it didn't exist. Their advanced ships and sophisticated weapons were proving worthless against an enemy that could evolve defenses faster than they could develop new attacks. "Have we learned anything about what these creatures want?" she asked. "Nothing," Jinho replied. "They don't respond to any communication attempts. They just attack, absorb our ships and technology, and move on to the next target." On the world of Keth Prime, civilian Na Young crouched in the ruins of what had been her city's central district. She was a journalist who had been documenting the peaceful life of the core worlds for a historical archive project. Now she found herself recording the end of civilization. Her camera device captured images of the organic ships hovering over the city like predatory insects. Strange creatures that looked like mixtures of metal and flesh moved through the streets, systematically dismantling everything they found. "This is Na Young reporting from Keth Prime," she spoke into her recording device. "The city is gone. These creatures, I don't know what else to call them. They're not just destroying everything. They're taking it apart piece by piece, like they're studying how we build things." Around her, the few survivors huddled in basements and underground shelters. The attackers seemed more interested in technology and infrastructure than in killing civilians, but anyone who got in their way was eliminated without hesitation. "I've been watching them for hours," Na-Young continued her report. "They work together like insects in a hive, but each group seems to be learning from what the others discover. Every time our defense forces try a new weapon or tactic, all of the enemy forces immediately know how to counter it." Her broadcast was being transmitted across the galaxy, carried by automated communication systems that the attackers hadn't yet discovered. Council worlds that hadn't been attacked yet were watching the horror and trying to prepare defenses that might work better than what had failed elsewhere. But deep in space, aboard a hidden station that no Council sensors could detect, Earth's leaders were also watching Na Young's broadcasts. Commander Do Hyun stood in the main observation deck with President Seo Jun, who had traveled from Earth to oversee the crisis. They watched the tactical displays showing the systematic destruction of Council territory. "How long before they reach the core worlds?" President Seo Jun asked. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many difficult decisions. "At their current rate of advance, maybe 2 weeks, Do Hyun replied. "But that's assuming they maintain their current pattern. If they decide to accelerate their attacks, it could be much sooner." Dr. Minna approached them with a data tablet in her hands. "Sir, I've completed my analysis of the enemy forces based on the reports we've received. I believe I know what we're dealing with." "Report," the president said. "They're not just organic ships," Minna explained. "Based on their behavior patterns and adaptation capabilities, I believe these are artificial life forms, biological machines created by someone else. They're designed to encounter new civilizations, study their technology, and then eliminate them using superior adaptations." "You mean their weapons?" "More than that. They're a cleansing system. Someone created these creatures to wipe out what they consider to be inferior life forms and absorb their technology for future use." President Seo Jun was quiet for a long moment, staring at the display showing burning Council worlds. "What are Earth's chances if we continue to hide?" "Zero," Do Hyun said immediately. "These creatures will eventually find us, probably after they finish with the Council species. And by then they'll have absorbed all of the galaxy's technology and become even more dangerous. And if we reveal ourselves to help the Council?" Dr. Minna consulted her data tablet. "Better, but still difficult. Our weapons technology is more advanced than the Council's, and our military doctrine is designed for asymmetric warfare. We might be able to slow them down or even stop them." "Might?" "Sir, we've been watching these creatures for weeks now. They adapt to everything. But human military tactics are based on unpredictability and rapid changes in strategy. That might give us an advantage." Admiral Sang-ho, the head of Earth's defense fleet, joined the group. He was a stern man with scars from the ancient wars that had driven humanity into hiding. "Mr. President, my ships are ready," he reported. "We can have the main battle fleet in position within 48 hours. But once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will know that humans exist." President Seo Jun looked out at the stars where entire civilizations were being destroyed. 3,000 years ago, humanity had chosen to hide rather than risk another war. Now they faced a choice between revealing themselves or watching the galaxy burn. "How many ships do we have available?" he asked. 200 capital ships, 800 cruisers, and 3,000 fighters, Admiral Sang-ho replied, "plus support vessels and mobile command platforms." "Against how many enemy forces?" "Current estimates suggest at least 10,000 biological vessels, with more arriving from deep space every day." The president was quiet for several minutes, weighing the decision that would change everything. Finally, he turned to his officers. "Begin fleet mobilization," he ordered. "It's time for humanity to step out of the shadows." The fortress world of Nexus Point had never seen so many ships gathered in one place. Council Leader Sora stood on the observation deck of the command station, watching as the last of the Galactic Council's military forces assembled for what everyone knew would be their final battle. 300 ships from 12 different species filled the space around the massive defensive platform. It was everything the Council had left, every battleship, cruiser, and fighter that had survived the systematic destruction of their outer territories. Status report, Sora requested from Admiral Jin Ho, who was coordinating the mixed fleet from the command center below. All available units are in position, Jin Ho replied through the communication system. We have representatives from every Council species, though some worlds could only send a few ships. Sora nodded grimly. The swarm had been merciless in its advance toward the galactic core. Entire star systems had been consumed, their populations either dead or scattered as refugees. The organic ships seemed unstoppable, adapting to every weapon and tactic the Council forces tried. How long until the enemy arrives? She asked. Long-range sensors detect the swarm's main force approximately 6 hours away. Based on their previous behavior patterns, they'll attack immediately upon reaching our position. Through the transparent walls of the observation deck, Sora could see the defensive preparations. Energy barriers were being activated around Nexus Point, and weapons platforms were charging their most powerful systems. It looked impressive, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. Every previous battle had followed the same pattern. The Council forces would inflict some damage at first, but within minutes the swarm ships would adapt and become immune to their weapons. Then the organic vessels would systematically destroy or absorb everything in sight. Sir, Communications Officer Tae-min called out from his station. We're receiving final messages from the refugee fleets. They've reached the inner systems and are beginning evacuations of the core worlds. Good, Sora replied. At least some civilians would survive what was about to happen here. She looked out at the assembled fleet and wondered if this was how civilizations always ended. Not with a great victory or noble sacrifice, but with the slow realization that they had never been as advanced as they thought. 5.5 hours later, they came. The swarm emerged from hyperspace like a living storm. Thousands of organic ships of every size spread across the star system, their biomechanical surfaces pulsing with alien energy. Some were small and fast like predatory fish, while others were massive creatures the size of space stations. All units, this is Admiral Jin Ho, came the announcement across all frequencies. Enemy forces have arrived. Begin attack pattern Alpha. May fortune favor us all. The Council fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missile salvos, and exotic weapons lit up the space between the two forces. For a brief moment, Sora allowed herself to hope as several swarm vessels were destroyed or damaged by the initial barrage. But hope died quickly. The organic ships that survived the first wave of attacks began to change. Their surfaces rippled and shifted, developing new armor configurations and defensive systems. Within minutes, the same weapons that had been effective were now completely useless. They're adapting faster than before, Jin Ho reported with despair in his voice. It's like they learned from all the previous battles how to counter our technologies more quickly. Sora watched as the swarm began its counterattack. Bioplasma weapons and organic missiles struck the Council ships with devastating effect. The carefully maintained formations began to break apart as vessels were destroyed or forced to retreat. Sir, we're losing ships faster than in any previous engagement, Tae-min reported. The enemy seems to have developed specific weapons designed to counter each of our species' technologies. The battle was turning into a massacre. Council ships that had served faithfully for centuries were being torn apart by creatures that seemed to view the entire galaxy as nothing more than raw materials to be processed. All remaining units, fall back to defensive position around Nexus Point, Jin Ho ordered. Activate all shield systems and prepare for final stand. But even as the surviving Council ships retreated to their last stronghold, everyone knew it was over. The swarm had proved that no conventional weapon could stop them. They would consume this fleet just like all the others, and then continue on to destroy the core worlds. Sora closed her eyes and prepared to send the final message to the refugee fleets, telling them that the Council's military had failed, and they were on their own. Then space itself seemed to tear apart. The darkness between the stars, erupted with light as massive shapes, emerged from what looked like holes in reality itself. Ships appeared that were unlike anything the Council species had ever seen. Angular vessels of metal and energy that seemed to bend space around themselves. What in the name of the first builders? Jin Ho whispered over the communication system. The new ships were huge, larger than anything in the Council fleet. Their hulls were covered with weapons that hummed with barely contained power. and they moved with a precision that seemed impossible for objects of their size. Fighter craft poured from launch bays in perfect formations, while smaller warships took positions that spoke of military discipline beyond anything the Council had achieved. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Taman announced, his voice filled with shock. "It's coming from the lead ship of the new fleet." "Put it through," Sora ordered. The voice that filled the command center was speaking in perfect Council standard, but with an accent that no one could identify. It was strong and confident, with an undertone that suggested its owner was used to being obeyed. "This is Admiral Sang-Ho of the Human Defense Fleet. All Council vessels are ordered to stand down immediately and withdraw to minimum safe distance. We will handle this threat." Silence filled the command center. Sora felt her legs go weak as the impossible word echoed in her mind. Human, the mythical species from the ancient archives, had just announced themselves to the galaxy. Council leader Sora to Admiral Sang-Ho, she managed to say. "Please identify yourself and your fleet. We have no record of your species in our current databases." "You have records," the voice replied calmly. "You just decided they were mythology. This conversation can continue later. Right now you need to move your ships away from the combat zone." On the tactical displays, Sora watched as the human fleet deployed with mechanical efficiency. The massive ships formed attack patterns that seemed random, but felt somehow perfect. Fighter squadrons moved in formations that confused the eye, but covered every possible angle of approach. "Admiral Jin-Ho, order all units to comply with the human request," Sora commanded. "Pull back to observation distance." "But sir, we can't just do it," Sora said firmly. "I want to see what happens." The Council fleet retreated to the edges of the star system, leaving the humans alone to face the swarm. What happened next would be talked about in every corner of the galaxy for generations to come. Captain Hyunwoo led the first wave of human fighters toward the swarm formation. His squadron moved in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were actually precisely calculated to confuse organic targeting systems. "Remember," he announced to his pilots, "these things adapt to whatever we throw at them. So don't give them time to adapt. Hit fast, change tactics, and keep them guessing." The human fighters engaged the swarm scouts with weapons that the Council species had never seen before. Instead of steady energy beams or simple missiles, the humans used projectiles that changed their properties while in flight, energy weapons that shifted frequencies randomly, and tactics that defied conventional military logic. Commander Do-hyun coordinated the main fleet attack from his flagship. "All units execute Pattern 7. Keep your weapon frequencies randomized and change targets every 30 seconds. The human capital ships opened fire with devastating effect. But unlike Council weapons, the human systems were designed to be unpredictable. Missiles that split into smaller warheads, energy beams that curved through space to hit targets from unexpected angles, and exotic weapons that seemed to ignore normal physics entirely. For the first time since the invasion began, the swarm was taking heavy damage without being able to adapt quickly enough to counter the attacks. Technical specialist Ye Jin monitored the battle from the command ship's sensor station. "Sir, the enemy vessels are trying to adapt, but our random frequency changes are preventing them from developing stable defenses. Deploy the quantum disruptors," Do-hyun ordered. These were humanity's secret weapons, missiles that contained technology so advanced that even other human scientists didn't fully understand how they worked. The quantum disruptors didn't just damage their targets. They prevented the organic ships from adapting by constantly changing the fundamental properties of the attack itself. The effect on the swarm was immediate and devastating. Ships that had seemed invincible began breaking apart as they encountered weapons that defied their ability to evolve defenses. Back on Nexus Point, Council leader Sora watched the battle with a mixture of awe and terror. The humans were not just defeating the swarm, they were demonstrating a level of military sophistication that made the Council's forces look like children playing with toys.